1997 Wanhera Film Studio in Hong Kong. The air is thick with humidity. Lights hang from the ceiling like mechanical suns, casting harsh shadows across the concrete floor. Crew members move silently, adjusting cameras, checking angles, whispering in Cantonese. And in the center of it all, two men face each other. One stands 7 feet 2 inches tall. His head nearly touches the lighting rigs. His hands are so large that a basketball disappears in his palm like an orange in a giant's grip. This is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, the most dominant basketball player on the planet. A man who makes other professional athletes look like children. The other man barely reaches Kareem's chest, 5'7", 140 pounds. But inside that compact frame lives something that defies measurement, something that makes the giant across from him pay absolute attention. This is Bruce Lee. Everyone watching asks the same question: who would win? The giant or the master? The mountain or the storm? But that question misses everything. The real question is this: how did these two men find each other? What invisible thread pulled an NBA superstar and a martial arts revolutionary into the same orbit? And what did Bruce Lee teach Kareem Abdul-Jabbar that changed not just his fighting, but his entire way of moving through the world? To understand, we have to go back 5 years before this moment, to a young man searching for something he couldn't name. The story begins in 1967, New York City. Lou Alcindor is 20 years old. He plays basketball for UCLA, and he plays it like no one has ever played before. Coaches don't know how to stop him. Opponents don't know how to guard him. The NCAA literally changed rules because of him. They banned the dunk. They thought it would slow him down. It didn't. He developed the skyhook instead, an unstoppable shot released from so high above the rim that blocking it was physically impossible. He won 3 national championships. He was the most celebrated college athlete in America. But something was wrong. Off the court, Lou Alcindor felt exposed, vulnerable, and for a 7'2" black man in 1960s America, that feeling wasn't paranoia, it was survival instinct. You have to understand the times. This was the era of assassinations. Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Jr. The country was burning with racial tension, and Lou Alcindor, with his size, his visibility, his unapologetic blackness, felt like a target everywhere he went. Height, he realized, was not always an advantage. On the basketball court, yes, but on the street, height meant you couldn't hide. Height meant everyone saw you. Height meant that if someone wanted to find you, they would. He started asking around who could teach him to protect himself, not just to fight, but to truly defend himself against any threat. The answers kept pointing to one name. There's a guy in Los Angeles, Chinese, small, but nobody can touch him. His name is Bruce Lee. Lou Alcindor got curious. He made some calls. He found out where Bruce Lee trained, and one day, without announcement, he showed up to watch. What he saw changed everything. Bruce Lee was teaching a small group of students in a backyard in Los Angeles. Nothing fancy, no uniforms, no bowing, no mystical Eastern rituals, just a compact man in a black t-shirt, moving in ways that seemed to violate physics. Lou watched from the edge of the yard towering over everyone, trying to stay inconspicuous and failing completely. Bruce noticed him immediately, but said nothing. He continued teaching. A punch, so fast it was invisible. The sound came after the motion, like thunder following lightning. A kick. The leg extended, retracted, extended again, before the first kick had even registered in the observer's mind. And then something else, something harder to describe. Bruce Lee wasn't just fast, he was present, completely, utterly present. His eyes didn't dart around looking for threats, they simply saw everything. His body didn't tense in anticipation, it remained fluid, ready, like water waiting to take whatever shape the moment required. Liu had seen athletes before, he was surrounded by the best in the world, but this was different. This wasn't athleticism, this was something deeper. When the session ended, Bruce walked over to the giant standing at the edge of his yard. "You're the basketball player," Bruce said. It wasn't a question. "Yes, sir." Bruce looked up at him, way up, and smiled. "You move well for your size, but you don't know what to do with all that body when you're not on the court. I can see it. You're uncomfortable in your own skin." Liu said nothing, because Bruce was right. "Come back tomorrow," Bruce said. "We'll work on that." Paulo Coelho once wrote that when you want something, all the universe conspires in helping you to achieve it. But he also wrote something else. He wrote that most people never recognize the help when it arrives. They're too busy looking for what they expect to see what's actually there. Lou Alcindor wasn't looking for a martial arts teacher. He was looking for safety, for a way to protect his physical body from a world that felt threatening. But what he found was something else entirely. He found a mirror. Bruce Lee had a way of seeing people, not their size, not their fame, not their potential usefulness. He saw their essence, and more importantly, he saw the gap between who they were and who they could become. In Lou Alcindor, he saw a giant who had been taught to use his size as a weapon, but had never been taught to move with grace. He saw a man who dominated through physical superiority, but had never explored what lay beyond physical superiority. He saw a cup that was full, overflowing with basketball instincts, with muscle memory, with years of training that had made him unstoppable on the court, but limited everywhere else. There is a famous Zen story that Bruce loved to tell. A scholar once visited a Zen master to learn about enlightenment. The master invited him to sit and serve tea. He poured the tea into the scholar's cup. The cup filled, but the master kept pouring. Tea spilled over the rim, onto the table, onto the floor. "Stop," the scholar cried. "The cup is full. No more will go in." The master set down the pot and smiled. "Like this cup, you are full of your own opinions and speculations. How can I show you Zen unless you first empty your cup?" This was Bruce's first lesson to Lou. "You're too full," he said. "Full of basketball, full of being tall, full of what coaches have told you, what opponents have taught you, what your body has learned to do automatically. Before I can teach you anything, you have to empty all of that out." Lou didn't understand. Empty it how? Forget you're tall. Forget you're strong. Forget you're famous. Forget everything you think you know about fighting, about moving, about your own body. Start from zero. For a man who had been the best at everything his entire life, this was almost impossible to hear. Start from zero. He was Lou Alcindor. He didn't start from zero. He started from the top, but something in Bruce's eyes told him this wasn't arrogance. This wasn't a small man trying to put a big man in his place. This was genuine teaching. This was the door to something real. He took a breath, and he decided to walk through. They began training 3 times a week, private sessions, no cameras, no media, no other students, just the mountain and the river. Lao Tzu, the ancient Chinese philosopher, wrote that the stiff and rigid is the disciple of death, while the soft and yielding is the disciple of life. He wrote about water constantly, how it flows around obstacles instead of crashing into them, how it takes the shape of any container without losing its essence, how, given enough time, it carves through the hardest stone. Bruce Lee had built his entire philosophy on these principles. Jeet Kune Do, the martial art he created, wasn't really a martial art at all. It was a way of being. It rejected fixed forms. It rejected rigid techniques. It taught that the greatest fighter was the one who could adapt to any situation, who could flow like water into whatever shape the moment required. This was what he began teaching Kareem. Not how to punch, not how to kick, not how to block, how to flow. You rely on your size, Bruce said during one of their early sessions. Every instinct you have is built around being bigger than your opponent. But what happens when size doesn't matter? What happens when someone faster, someone more unpredictable, takes away your advantage? Kareem had no answer. I'll show you. Bruce moved. One moment he was standing in front of Kareem. The next moment he was behind him. Then beside him. Then in front. He hadn't seemed to run or jump or lunge. He had simply flowed from position to position like water finding its way around stones. Try to touch me, Bruce said. Kareem reached out. His arm was almost 4 feet long. His reach was legendary. He had blocked thousands of shots, grabbed thousands of rebounds, touched things that other players couldn't dream of reaching. He touched nothing. Bruce wasn't where he had been. He was somewhere else, always somewhere else. You see, Bruce said, size is just one tool. Speed is just one tool. The mind is the real weapon. Adaptability is the real strength. They trained for hours, weeks, months, years. Bruce never tried to turn Kareem into a smaller man. That would have been foolish. Instead, he taught him to use his size differently, not as a battering ram, but as a presence, not as a weapon of force, but as a weapon of options. Imagine your water, Bruce would say. Your opponent is a rock. Don't crash into the rock. Flow around it. Find the cracks. Seep through. Take whatever shape you need to take. And given enough time, you'll wear the rock away to nothing. On the basketball court, something began to change. Kareem's teammates noticed it first. His movements became more fluid, less predictable. His famous skyhook, already unstoppable, became something else entirely. It became beautiful, graceful, a movement that seemed to defy the limitations of a 7'2" body. His footwork changed. He no longer planted himself like a tree and dared opponents to move him. He began to flow across the court, finding angles, creating space, becoming water. Opponents felt it too. Something was different about Alcindor. They couldn't figure out what. He wasn't faster. He wasn't stronger, but he was somehow more. more present, more unpredictable, more dangerous in ways they couldn't name. Bruce Lee was what was different. Their relationship deepened over the years. It went beyond teacher and student. They became friends, real friends. They talked about philosophy, about life, about the struggles of being an outsider in America. Bruce understood what it meant to be seen as different, as other. He had fought his whole life against Hollywood's refusal to see him as anything but a stereotype. He had been told, again and again, that America wasn't ready for an Asian leading man, that he should accept sidekick roles, that he should be grateful for whatever scraps the industry threw him. He refused. Again and again, he refused. Kareem understood this refusal. He was fighting his own battles against a sports world that wanted him to shut up and play, against a society that was uncomfortable with an articulate, intelligent, politically aware black athlete, against expectations that he should be grateful for his success and quiet about everything else. They recognized something in each other. Two men who refused to be diminished. Two men who insisted on defining themselves on their own terms. A good teacher protects his pupils from his own influence. Bruce once told Kareem, "I don't want to create copies of myself. That would be the greatest failure. What I want is for you to find your own way, to take what's useful from what I teach, reject what isn't useful, and add what is uniquely your own. Absorb what is useful, discard what is not, add what is uniquely your own." This became Kareem's philosophy too, in basketball, in martial arts, in life. In 1971, Lo Alcindor changed his name to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He had converted to Islam years earlier, but now he made it public. He rejected his slave name, as he called it. He embraced a new identity. Bruce understood this completely. He had always emphasized the importance of honest self-expression, of being yourself fully and completely, regardless of what the world expected you to be. Every man must find his own path, Bruce said. Nobody can walk it for you. Nobody can tell you where it leads. All I can do is help you see that the path exists. Then came 1972, and the film that would immortalize their friendship. Bruce called Kareem with an idea. He was making a movie called Game of Death. His vision was ambitious. A martial artist climbs a pagoda, facing different masters on each floor. Each master represents a different style. Each battle is a philosophical statement about martial arts. And at the top of the pagoda, guarding the final treasure, would be the ultimate challenge. The tallest, most physically imposing opponent imaginable. "I want you to play the guardian," Bruce said. Kareem laughed. "Bruce, I'm a basketball player. I'm not an actor. You're not playing a character. You're playing yourself, your size, your presence, your reach. Everything you are becomes the challenge." Kareem thought about it. He trusted Bruce. He knew that whatever Bruce created would be something special. "Okay," he said, "I'll do it." They filmed for weeks in Hong Kong. The conditions were difficult. The heat was oppressive. The scenes required real physical contact, real exertion. There were no stunt doubles. Every movement was authentic. Watch that scene carefully. It remains one of the most remarkable fight sequences ever filmed. Bruce, in his yellow tracksuit enters the top floor of the pagoda. Kareem waits for him, seated, calm, enormous. He stands and keeps standing. The camera captures the full absurdity of the size difference. Bruce barely reaches his chest. And then they fight. Bruce is fast, blindingly fast. His movements are almost impossible to track. Hands, feet, elbows, knees, everything becomes a weapon. But Kareem moves with a grace that shouldn't be possible for a man his size. 5 years of training with Bruce Lee had transformed him. He wasn't just big anymore. He was fluid, adaptive, dangerous in ways that had nothing to do with his height. There's a moment in the fight where Kareem catches Bruce's leg mid-kick. His hand wraps around Bruce's ankle like it's a child's wrist. He holds it there, effortlessly. Bruce is suspended, vulnerable, completely in Kareem's control. Any other fighter would have panicked, would have struggled, would have tried to pull away. Bruce flows with it. He uses Kareem's grip as a pivot point, turning the hold against him, finding freedom in what should have been captivity. This wasn't just choreography. This was two martial artists having a conversation in a language they had developed together over 5 years. This was the mountain and the river, speaking without words. They never finished filming Game of Death. On July 20th, 1973, Bruce Lee died. He was 32 years old. The cause was a cerebral edema, a swelling of the brain. The details remain controversial to this day, but the result is undeniable. The world lost one of its brightest lights far too soon. Kareem got the phone call in Los Angeles. He remembers the moment with perfect clarity. The way the words didn't make sense at first, the way his mind rejected them. Bruce Lee couldn't be dead. Bruce Lee was the most alive person he had ever known. But it was true. At the funeral in Seattle, Kareem was there, standing in the back, a mountain among men, trying to be invisible, trying to process a loss that defied processing. Years later, he would talk about what Bruce meant to him. "I lost a teacher," Kareem said. "I lost a friend. I lost someone who saw me, not my height, not my fame, not what I could do for him. He saw me, the real me, and he helped me become more of that person." Lao Tzu understood something about water that most people miss. Rivers don't really die. They flow into the ocean. They evaporate into clouds. They fall as rain somewhere else. They emerge from springs in distant mountains. The water that flowed through ancient Rome still flows today. It just takes different shapes. Bruce Lee's teachings didn't die with him. They flow through everyone he touched, through Kareem's championships, through his skyhook, through every fluid movement that shouldn't have been possible for a man his size. Kareem went on to become the greatest scorer in NBA history, a record he held for decades. 6 championships, 6 MVP awards, a career that spanned 20 seasons of dominance. And whenever anyone asked about the secret to his longevity, his adaptability, his ability to keep playing at the highest level long after other players had faded, he mentioned one name: Bruce Lee. "He taught me that the body follows the mind." Kareem explained, that flexibility isn't just physical, it's mental. That the moment you become rigid, the moment you stop adapting, you've already started dying. Empty your cup, be water, flow around obstacles. Take whatever shape you need to take. These weren't just martial arts principles. They were life principles. They were basketball principles. They were principles for surviving and thriving in a world that constantly tries to put you in a box, constantly tries to define you, constantly tries to limit what you can become. Kareem is 77 years old now. He still moves with a grace that shouldn't be possible for a man his age. He still writes, still thinks, still speaks out on issues he cares about, still refuses to be diminished. And whenever someone asks him about Bruce Lee, his eyes change, the years fall away. He's 20 years old again, standing at the edge of a backyard in Los Angeles, watching a small man move in ways that seem to violate the laws of physics. He was the greatest martial artist I ever saw, Kareem says. Then he pauses, and in that pause, decades of friendship, of training, of loss, of carrying someone's legacy forward. But more than that, he says quietly, he was my friend. What happens when a mountain meets a river? The mountain thinks it will stand forever. It thinks its strength is in its immobility, its permanence, its refusal to change. The river doesn't argue. It doesn't try to convince the mountain of anything. It simply flows around the mountain, through the mountain, over the mountain, if necessary. And given enough time, the river reshapes the mountain entirely, not through force, through persistence, through the endless patience of water finding its way. Bruce Lee was the river. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was the mountain. And the mountain still carries the river within him. Every day, every movement, every breath. That is the legacy of their friendship. That is what Bruce Lee taught the greatest basketball player in history. Not how to fight, how to flow. Empty your cup. Be water, my friend.